Naruto would not lie and say she was smart. She knew she wasn't. She was dead last for a reason. But even she could tell she wasn't in her village anymore. She looked around her. The world was a blank slate around her, white, but with 3 doors hovering in midair. Above each was a nameplate. Naruto, Harry, and Tom. What is this place? She asked out loud. My guess is it's where our 3 minds are connected. She jumped, looking to where the voice originated. She saw a reptilian man with red eyes, sliced nostrils, and dark hair. It was hard to place what his age was. He seemed ageless. Our minds? She asked, tilting her head to the side. If this is a dream, it's fucked up. The man shook his head. He looked down at her. I do not believe that this is a dream. He started to walk to the last door. Hey, where the hell are you going? You're just going to leave me here. I just fucking appear here. And you're leaving me all alone. The man spun to face her, his eyes glowing with his anger. No one speaks like that to Lord Voldemort. Naruto burst out laughing. Voldemort, that can't be your real name. He sneered at her. And what is your name? If it's so much better. The 14th-year-old pointed at him and a blinding grin on her face. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Databane. Voldemort raised an eyebrow, fishcake spiral. Her face went red. Whatever, at least mine doesn't sound fake. Like yours is much better. He smirked at her. It means flight from death. She grumbled. Alright, so it is better than mine, whatever. You probably gave it to yourself, so of course it's cool. She turned to the first door. Harry's door. Voldemort followed her gaze. He sighed. He knew what he was. A Horcruxes, and now he was one. His mind was more clear than it had been for a long time, and now he knew making so many Horcruxes had damaged his mind. Only 2 things he understood: how his mind was so clear at that moment, and how the small blonde was there too. He studied her. She exuded power. It wasn't magic, but it was like it. His instincts were telling him not to get on her bad side. There was also something demonic just underneath the surface. He wasn't sure who she was, but he was sure she was not from Britain. She seemed Asian, but her accent was nothing like he'd heard before. The marks on her face that seemed like whiskers was another thing. They didn't look like scars, but too precise to be birthmarks. I'm going to my mind. I suggest you do the same. We'll talk tomorrow. He closed the door before the girl could say anything. He needed to meditate. Naruto huffed, stomping into her mind. She found herself the sores. She sighed. She walked up to the Kyuubi's cage. Hey, what the hell did you do for ball? The giant fox lifted his head from his paws and rolled his eyes. I did nothing, brat. Naruto growled. Then how the fuck are we here? And where the fuck is here? Kitty sighed. We're in a different universe. Naruto blinked. Universe? Is that a type of ramen? Kitty glared at her. I know you're not that stupid. Naruto gave an apologetic smile. Sorry, it's just how's that possible? The fox looked at her and started to explain. From what I understand, they were in the boy's, Harry, mind, and we're here to protect him from the man you just met. Naruto cocked her head. He was creepy, sure, but he doesn't seem that bad. Kibi nodded. That's because I healed his mind. Whether he and Harry knows it or not, we're all connected now. That means I will heal them just as I do for you. Naruto nodded. She scratched the back of her head. I guess this means I'm not going to make it back. Kibi shook his head. Time has paused in our universe. When Voldemort is defeated, we'll be able to go home. How do you know that? I don't, but we're here to protect the kid. So it stands to reason that once we're done we'll go back. She nodded, eyebrows furrowing. That man Voldemort. How can we protect Harry? We're in his mind. Kibi sighed. He is, but only part of the whole. Naruto narrowed her eyes. Explain fuzziness. The next day the two met up out in what Naruto dubbed the neutral zone. Voldemort had come to no conclusions while he was meditating, which was annoying. Naruto for her part learned a lot from the Kyuubi. Apparently when the lady summoned then, she imparted her knowledge to the Kyuubi. So if she knew it, Kyuubi knew it too. Voldemort sighed, looking at the blonde, Miss Uzumaki. Naruto cut him off. Call me Naruto, she pouted. Voldemort refused to think of it as cute. Fine Naruto, where are you from? She tilted her head, thinking about it. She decided to stick to the basics. I'm from the Elemental Nations, the Leaf Village in the Fire Country. Voldemort hummed. I've never heard of that place before. She grinned at him. I expect not. Apparently I'm in a new universe, so it makes sense. The Dark Lord blinked at her, then sighed. Can you explain your conclusions? Naruto explained it as Kyuubi did, but without telling him about the fox. This man was likely going to be her only constant human interaction. She didn't want him to fear her. Voldemort nodded when she finished. I can see why you were summoned. You feel even more powerful than the old fool. Naruto blushed. She wasn't sure who he was comparing her to. but she got the feeling it was a very nice thing to say. Kakashi-sensei would have been better, she mumbled, pulling at one of her pigtails. Voldemort was not in the mood to boost the girl's self-confidence. He was no good at it, he didn't have the patience for bullshitting, so he settled for a compromise. If this Kakashi was better, then the magic would have brought him, not you. Naruto smiled and nodded. This guy, he was like Iruka, he believed in her, she would not fail. Voldemort gestured her to follow him and lead her to Harry's door. Do you want to meet our? He trailed off, not sure how to describe them. Mind roommates. Databane. Naruto exclaimed. Voldemort nodded as thanks. Mind roommate. Hell yeah. Naruto pumped her hand into the air. Together they walked through the door. They popped out into a cupboard, shrunk to form comfortably. Naruto looked around. Why are we in a closet? She tried to open the door, and he hand-padded through. Voldemort was doing the same, but he was the first who noticed the small child. Who was the one he tried to kill? Sleeping in a basket. Voldemort clutched at Naruto's arm for support. Naruto turned to give him an earful for startling her. She wasn't used to touches that didn't hurt. She saw the babe and couldn't say anything for a bit. They both registered the smell, wrinkling their noses at it. Voldemort moved first. He was jerky, but he managed. I'll deal with the diaper. Naruto nodded. I'll deal with any diaper rash he may have. They worked together in silence. Quickly Harry was in a new diaper. Naruto was surprised, but pleased she was able to touch the boy. Naruto looked at her. He hasn't been fed in several hours. Voldemort hesitated. If you had milk, would you be able to feed him? Naruto nodded. I helped a lot in the nursery at the orphanage before I was kicked out. Voldemort blinked, taking in what the girl had said. She was an orphan, probably kind, if she helped with the babies. And finally he didn't know what to make of her being kicked out. He never was. Exercised, yes. Avoided, yes. Bullied, yes. But that was before he thought of fighting back at them. But even after all of that he never was kicked out. So what did Naruto do? Even as he was thinking, he waved his hand and a bottle of warm milk appeared. Naruto blinked at it. So you really can do magic. I know you just cleaned the diaper, but this is wow. She picked up the bottle, happy she could, and gently put it to the baby's lips. Harry's instincts kicked in and instantly started sucking. He finished the whole bottle. Naruto picked him up and burped him, laying him back down. Truthfully, she was pissed. This kid was all alone, and obviously was starting to be abused. She turned to Voldemort. We need to take care of him, obviously whoever had him now won't. Voldemort nodded. I agree, what these people are doing to them, but I think we're only mental constructs. Wow, less big words, or my head would explode. Database. Voldemort rolled his eyes. We can't be touched, or be seen by thoughts who are not in our mental link. Naruto nodded, still slightly confused, but decided to ask Kibby about it. Voldemort, I'm worried for him. The Dark Lord nodded. I'm as well. And yes, I know Voldy is really OC, but I wanted him to be more sympathetic, and can actually like him. I'll try to keep him as close as possible without him trying to kill babies. And Naruto is too. But I wanted to make my own personality for her. She will have her moments of overconfidence, but that will only happen if it's her life on the line. Over the next few days and months they took turns looking after Harry. Just as Voldemort had said, they couldn't interact with the world around them unless it had been touched by chakra or magic, nor could they be seen by those without magic. They had learned, so when a man in a woman's dress robe had asked for directions, they had apologized, saying that they were new to the area. The old wizard had been very kind. He went on his way without much fuss. The worst part of their life was the Dursleys. Even if the three couldn't see them, they never failed to put Naruto and Voldemort in a bad mood. The first time they had met Petunia, she had put Harry in her son's old bath water. It was too cold and the wrong color, a disgusting brown. Voldemort was able to warm up the water and clean it too, but it only made it worse for Harry. She had started yelling about how he was a freak. She had hit the 1-year-old over the head, and if it wasn't for Kyobie, Harry would have had brain damage. Vernon Dursley had come storming in, his face a dark purple. He started yelling at the babe, who was crying at the pain of the blow and being yelled at. Vernon had picked up the child with one hand around their child's arm and threw him in the cupboard. Naruto didn't want to think about what would have happened without Kyobie and had thanked the fox extensively afterward. The only good thing about the incident was it led to a better relationship between Container and Demon. Voldemort wasn't sure how the boy survived that incident, but he knew it had to do with Naruto. Somehow the girl healed the boy. He wanted to know how, but first to deal with Harry. Needless to say, Naruto and Voldemort did not care for the Dursleys. They both had several flashbacks to their childhoods. The glares, being called a freak or demon, the beatings that would happen. Of course, neither knew the other was going the same thing, but they both knew the other was angry. Naruto knew that she wouldn't be able to handle any more of the Dursleys hurting Harry. Speaking of which, he was the best part. Naruto just couldn't help but coo at Harry's cuteness. Even Voldemort had thought he was adorable. What surprised both was the level of intelligence in the boy. He had looked at them the first morning and asked, "Where Mama and Dada?" Naruto and Voldemort had been blown away by how smart the little tyke was. "Mama and Daddy have gone out for a bit," Naruto told him. Voldemort stared at her. "They asked us to look after you." The babe had furrowed his brows. "Unka Pafu, Unka Muni." Naruto shook her head, with a stab of sadness at not being able to save Sirius, who was surely in prison. Remus was probably drowning in guilt. Voldemort took over for Naruto. "They're out as well." Harry nodded sadly, looking down with tears in his eyes. Naruto swept the boy up in her arms. "Hey, we're here. I'm Auntie Kitson." And that she pointed at Voldemort is uncle. She looked at the man, unsure what to call him. He sighed. "Tom." She smiled and looked down at Harry. "Uncle Tom." The babe babbled happily. "Auntie Kit, Unca Tom." "Tom?" Naruto asked, looking at the man. He shifted. "Yes, it was my father's name. I never really cared for it." Naruto smiled. "I like it. I've never met a Tom. It sounds kinda funny, but cute." Voldemort, or Tom, stared at the girl. "It's a very common name here." Naruto shrugged. "Still like it." As Harry grew up, it was hard not to notice that his Aunt Kitson and Uncle Tom couldn't be seen by others, or couldn't touch or be touched, except he could. He could give his aunt hugs, which she gave the best. His uncle could pat his head. At the age of 6 he finally asked why. His uncle had been hesitant, but his aunt hadn't. When his uncle had said maybe he was too young, his aunt had waved him off with carelessness. "I've had people keep secrets from me till I and my sensei almost got hurt because of it. I won't let my little boy go through the same." So she and his uncle explained. They explained how his parents were actually wizards, how an evil wizard had started a war, and his parents had fought against him, how his parents have given their lives to protect Harry and end the war. They explained how they weren't really there, that they were in his mind, that somehow their consciousness had been transferred into his mind, how they were in a sense his guardian spirits. Harry had nodded along, unsure what was going on, but believing them. Tom had taken over afterwards. "When you're 11, you'll get your Hogwarts letter. Hogwarts is where you'll learn all your magical education." "Is that where you went, Uncle Tom?" Harry asked innocently. Tom smiled and nodded. He did mind being called Tom by these two. It was nice. Although it's been around 40 years, so it could have changed. Naruto blinked at the man. The reptilian appearance had faded, being replaced with a more human one. The only thing that had been left was his red eyes. But he didn't look over 40. He looked to be in his late 20s. "You don't look old," she blurted out. She scratched the back of her head in embarrassment. Tom just chuckled. He was sure whatever kept healing Harry of his injuries was the same thing that gave him his appearance back. "We wizards age slower. We can live upward to 200 years on the long end." Harry's mouth formed an O. Naruto frowned. The Kaiwubi never told her this, that even if she was able to stay, her Placido son would outlive her for so long, and even Tom, who she viewed as her best friend in this world. When she got back to her mind that night, she asked the Kaiwubi about it. He sighed. "That idiotic old man." He turned his head to look at her, then he shifted. He went smaller and now was a red-headed man with traditional ninja gear. He flopped in front of his bars, gesturing to Naruto to sit in front of him. Naruto followed the gesture, staring at him wide-eyed. "How long have you been able to do that? And why haven't you done it before?" Kaiwubi sighed again. "Because brat, I didn't trust you. But now I think I can. So don't betray it." He glared at her. Naruto nodded frantically. "Got it, Kaio." The Kaiwubi rested his head on his hand. "Yes, they have longer lives than regular humans, but compared to you, they live about the same." Naruto blinked. "Compared to me?" she asked, tilting her head to the side. "Yes, Kit. You. Did they teach you nothing about your clan?" "I have a clan," she exclaimed. Kibi dragged a hand down his face. "The Uzumaki clan, Kit, the only clan that's able to hold me, known for their large chakra pools, healing chakra, fuinjutsu, chakra chains, and their longevity." Long gravy. The fox rolled his eyes. "Longevity, Kit. It means you live longer. Naruto blinked. So I won't die as fast as others. I'll live beyond them. Kaiwubi nodded. It's a part of your clan kit. The demon couldn't help but feel sorry for his little girl. Yes, his little girl. This container was different from the one who came before her. He had watched her grow up, and now he was watching her practically raise a child while still being a child, with the child's parents' murderer. Let it never be said that Naruto's life was normal. Of course now she was mentality 19-year-old, but she never aged here. Kibi chuckled. When his kit got back everyone would be surprised. Naruto thought about what Kaiwubi had told her. Finally she said, what's Fuinjutsu? The art of seals. Naruto narrowed her eyes. Like with the toad contract the pervy sage has. The fox internally snickered at the name, but nodded. Yes, exactly like that. She stared at the fox. Could you teach me? The Kaiwubi nodded, a smirk evident. The next 4 years was spent with Naruto learning sealing and her chakra chains. She didn't tell the boys what exactly she was doing, only that she had to train. But at the end of the second year she was at intermediate with seals, and her chakra chains were perfected. It was at that time she learned how to make it so Harry could make them corporeal. It only took a seal on her and Tom's back. Tom had helped her with hers, blushing slightly, feeling like a pervert, and not really liking it. Naruto then put a seal on Harry's palm. She showed him the hand signs and the words and explained how to channel his magic into it. Although Tom helped with that part, soon they were standing in front of him fully formed. It was probably for the best that the Dursleys had decided to kick him out that night. So Harry had plenty of room. The only problem with it was that they had been summoned as animals. Tom was a long 14 feet long black snake. Naruto was a fox with a very fluffy tail. They all ended up cuddling up with each other that night for warmth. Later when Harry could look up what they were, they found out Tom was a black mamba and Naruto was a Japanese red fox. During the first 2 years Tom was worried for Naruto. The fact that he felt she had withdrawn from him and Harry made him worry they had upset her somehow. Then she put seals on him, herself and Harry, and suddenly they were solid. It wasn't much, but he was happy that she really was training and not just avoiding him and Harry. Harry was having the time of his life. Sure, the Dursleys were horrible, but he had his Aunt Kitson and Uncle Tom. When he finally went to school, the Dursleys could no longer hold him back because of the law. He came back with top marks. The Dursleys hated it, but Aunt Kitson and Uncle Tom were proud. His aunt bent her knees slightly, so she was his height. Never dumb yourself down, Harry. Forget what they said. If I had been as smart as you when I was in school, I would have been able to pull a decent grade. She thought back to the academy, where she was always set up for failure. Test meant for those who were a year older. The teachers were not answering questions. They were not even teaching her to read. Iruka had been the one who had taught her to read, those kuni, and many other things. But by that time it was too late, and she figured she'd roll with being dead last. Harry reached up and wiped the tears that were coming from her eyes. Don't cry, Auntie. I'll do my best, don't worry. Naruto cried even harder. Tom just watched, checking off his checklist about the blonde, orphan, kind, did something to get her kicked out of the orphanage, can do seals. Her magic is called chakra and works differently as well. Did poorly in school. He grimaced. He didn't like the picture of Naruto's past this was painting. Sue, yeah, I didn't want to type out Voldy's name every time, so Tom. And Naruto, she's smart, but she is more like Iruka smart, not a genius, but would have gotten good grades if she was treated equally like the rest of her classmates. And Harry's abuse. I know I had one really dark moment and skimmed over the rest of it, but I wanted to set the tone for the abuse and then leave it to your imagination, because I think the best horror is to leave it unknown. I did draw inspiration from the books for Petunia hitting Harry. Except you know it's not with a frying pan this time, because he is a child, and even with Kaiwubi healing him, he would not have survived a frying pan to the head. The rest of his abuse will be more like the book, so if you have read the book or watched the movies, you know what's going on. So the rest of the book will not be so heavily focused on the abuse of the Dursleys, but believe me, they will get their comeuppance, even if that means Tom in snake form will bite them in the ass. Dollar parcel $TONGUE. I will skip things that happen relatively the same, like if the only difference is Tom's and Naruto's reactions. Nope, not going to do it. Naruto and Tom will be a bit awk, but for them it been like 10 years with only the other and Harry for company, so yes, they would have changed. Also, I'm adding something. Naruto and Tom can decide if they want to be seen. I wanted them to be out in Daigen with Harry, but I had written myself into a corner on that one.